think my heart now beats for three. Obsessed and so obscure. You and me and Christopher Lee. Obsessed and so obscure. I think my heart now.
Welcome to Obsessed and So Obscure, a Matt Berry music podcast. I am Jessie, and as always, I am joined by Tara.
Hello.
And Courtney.
Hi.
So you've heard me mention Pugwash and Thomas Walsh on the show many times. I'm a huge fan, and I've been spreading the Pugwash gospel to anyone who will listen. From 1999's Almond to 2017's Silverlake, Thomas Walsh has released 7 albums under the name Pugwash and 2 additional albums as the Duckworth Lewis Method with Neil Hannon of the Divine Comedy. Much anticipated album number 8, titled The Rest is History, is scheduled to be released this fall. You're probably going to hear me fangirl way too much today because we have the honor of being joined by none other than Mr. Thomas Walsh. Welcome, Thomas.
Good afternoon, morning, evening.
Yes, we have a bit of a time difference. It's morning, early morning our time, afternoon your time.
Yes, it's a lovely day here in Ireland. I'm just outside Dublin, about an hour in the car. It's a place called Ardee, County Louth. It's pronounced Loud. So if you see it written down, it's Louth. Very Irish. So I love the way people from other countries would go, we'll try and pronounce it right. But, we don't bother with right pronunciations. We just say Louth. So it is County Louth. That's how it's said. And it's a very, as with most of Ireland, it's ancient in its history. So there's a castle from the 10th century at my back garden. And I don't own it. It's just over the fence. But
that's so cool.
It's just amazing to have
kind of
access to that kind of history. We don't have history. Our oldest history is actually in Florida, in St. Augustine, because it's the oldest city in the United States. And because it was founded by the Spanish, it's not that old compared to comparison.
It's always the Spanish. The Spanish are always around somewhere.
Right.
Conquering. Well, that's
things.
the thing. I always think of Port America. I mean it in the nicest way that, it's only going through puberty, isn't it, really?
Difficult puberty.
Anyway, we still love you, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for coming.
Appreciate that.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
We figured why not start with the most obvious first question. Where did the name Pugwash come from?
Well, it's from a cartoon. It's from a cartoon by a guy called John Ryan. I think it's John Ryan, hopefully, yeah. And he was a brilliant English, kind of visualizer of some classic kids' stories and stuff. But he came up with the idea of this Captain Pugwash. And of course, the fable is, the semen stains and the masturbates and all that stuff. And it's all bollocks. It's very good though, but it's all shit. And but he's just a cartoon character. But I loved it as a kid because I had that kind of Terry Gilliam stop animation of the 70s. 60s and 70s where just things moved weirdly, and when we grew up with that. But there was another cartoon called Mary, Mungo and Midge, which is about a girl called Mary, a dog called Mungo, and a mouse called Midge. And they lived in a tower block, and that was the big thing. This was made in 1969 in the UK, and I was born in 69. So when I was growing up, that was the exact same kind of animation. It was the same people who did it, and I used to love all that. Yeah, so it's from a cartoon called Captain Pugwash, and I kind of looked like him. That was the jokey thing. Now, typically with band names, it's what you pick at a particular time and a particular day that happens to move forward in your world of music. So when I had Pugwash, things happened. But I had stupid like Belch and fucking the Pepper Circle and the Sepia Circle or Sepia Circle and all these stupid names. And I just thought when Pugwash it stuck with an album behind it. You know what I mean? So I had to kind of stick with it.
Yeah.
But it's funny.
It's a good name though.
Well, just to let you know, I'm actually releasing the next one as Thomas Walsh.
Very exciting that it's going to be an actual Thomas Walsh album.
Yeah, it's weird because Neil Hannon has been just, Neil doesn't do anything like, silly names, silly band names. Divine Comedy, of course, is his band, and it's all very grand and very, it's all like Neil. He did everything right even when he was young. When it came to Pugwash, he's always like, you should release it as your own, your own name and stuff, because he hates the name. And I understand, right? I hate the fucking name as well. But it just stuck, it's like Radiohead. There's no point ever where Radiohead was a good name. But it's because it's Radiohead. It just becomes, if I sold 1 million copies tomorrow, Pugwash would be like would make so much sense. But look, this isn't very Mac
It's
central. You know
not.
what I mean? Let's get going on the
Well,
guy. Let's
I
dish the
mean, some
beef.
of it, we have some questions, but we thought we'd,
Yeah.
talk about you first
But
because,
well,
we
thank
want to
you.
talk about you too.
Well, it's a good story for me, I suppose, about meeting him. I might as well got to how I met
Yeah,
him
we
and
were going to
stuff.
ask you about that.
Well,
Yeah.
basically, I'm a big British comedy fan. I'm a big comedy fan in general, but British comedy I love. And the IT crowd, because Arthur and Graham had written it, I was obviously interested in it because I loved Father Ted, but I especially loved Big Train and even Hippies, which is brilliant. Simon Pegg. Have you watched Hippies
I
of
haven't
Simon
seen
Pegg?
Hippies, no.
No.
Oh,
I know of it.
you have to see
Yeah.
Hippies. It's just very stupidly funny. It's like it's Arthur and Graham, but it's mainly Arthur, and Arthur's more the John Lennon with but Graham is more the Paul McCartney. If Paul McCartney was transphobic, I suppose that's the way you look at it now. And so sadly, but there was lots of shows I loved by these people, lots of great shows, and I was always so Kevin Eldon and people like that, and Paul Putner and all these great, and Matt, of course. They were all involved in these kind of similar kind of comedy things. And so I liked them all. They were just funny people. And in the IT crowd, I just got to know Neil Hannon. And of course, Neil did the music for IT crowd. And he didn't, where I met Neil initially in 20 years ago now, this year, I think, was Graham and Helen Serafinowicz's wedding, Pugwash with a band. For the wedding, and talk about like a call to get, because I walked in at that, bringing our gear into the castle in Ireland where it was held, and Chris fucking Morris walks out.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
the first person that walks by is Chris Morris, and I'm like, whoa. So that's why there's pictures of me with Chris Morris and stuff. And he only emailed me recently. He emailed me because he was coming to Abbey Road and with Stuart Lee, and it's similar with Stuart. But Stuart's going to review the album for this very prestigious magazine in England when it comes out, because he loves it. I sent him an early version. So Stuart loves the album, which is great. Very proud of that. But anyway, walked in, and then Kevin Eldon walks out, and Jonathan Ross is there, and Matt Lucas and David Williams, and all Simon Pegg. And this is just before Simon Pegg hit big with Shaun the Dead. It was just before Shaun the Dead came out. So Simon Pegg said to us, him and his wife were there. We love you, or him and his girlfriend. We love your band. Will you come and play at our wedding? Because we're getting married next year. But
Oh my God.
within the year, Shaun the Dead had come out and become this huge thing. And he got Curian Breaks, the band, to play at his wedding. Well,
that's crap,
cool,
man.
but Helen was there, and Peter Serafinowicz, and all these amazing people. Adam Buxton, I remember as well, was lovely, and just everyone. So I got a contact for them all, really. And of course, Graham, I'd known, because Graham liked Pugwash and stuff. Sorry, and especially Arthur was more of a fan, really. But anyway, the gig was brilliant. The wedding was a special night, and that was fantastic. But Neil was there, of course, because Neil wrote the Father Ted music, and Neil came out and he said, "Can I have a lend of your acoustic guitar?" And I said, "Of course you can." And he played Songs of Love, and someone snapped a picture of Neil asking for the guitar, and that was when we met, which is really funny. I have that picture.
That's so
Yeah,
cool.
but I didn't speak to him for 2 years, probably, maybe more. And what happened was Graham Linehan lost his phone and sent out, which is something Neil would never do nowadays, but sent out a mass email to all his inbox saying, "I've lost my phone. Here's my new number." Imagine
And no
doing that now.
BCC,
Well,
just
no.
the whole list.
Yeah, and I was in my bedsit in Dublin, just half asleep, drunk probably. And I opened the email and I seen it. And of course, the list of people attached was that big, and it showed up, And I just looked straight at it. And within about 2 seconds of just looking down it, I saw Neil Hannon, and I seen his email address, and I went, okay, that's interesting. And I saved that because I've been asked to write a Christmas song for Irish epilepsy, and I was planning to do it in 2005, but I released an album, so it was a bit busy, so it didn't happen until 2006. But when I came around to doing it, I said, you know what, I'm going to email Neil Hannon just to come down and sing a line or two, and because he was living in Dublin at the time. And I did, and he answered, and he was lovely, and we went over, myself and my old manager, just got on like a house on fire. He came to the session, and it was brilliant. He did brilliant. And then on the way home from that session, the radio was on the car, and I was thinking, he's a lovely guy, but we're not going to be mates. And all of a sudden there was a sports report came on the radio, and I'm chatting away as I do, as you know. And someone said, and the cricket, there was a cricket. And Neil says, sorry, Thomas, but can I just listen to the cricket scores? I know you won't be interested, but and I went, I won't be interested because I'm a big sports fan, and
Mhm.
Neil's a sports fan, but I'm a big sports fan. Of course, I played cricket when I was a kid on the street in Dublin because I loved it when I saw it on the TV. It's just one of those things. And you don't think about the culture and whatever it means. You just want to play it if you like it. So I went, I fucking love cricket. And he went, what? And so like within a week, we met up in the pub and we were having drinks, talking about cricket and talking about music. And we just, I'd say within 2 months, maybe he said, come over to the house. I'm writing up to write a song for Kylie Minogue. Do you want to
Nice.
come over and, you know, because he hated doing all that, and but it was good money, obviously. And I was like, fucking yeah, Kylie, let's go. So we wrote a lot of things that were silly pop things. But then while we were there, and while we were hanging out during that time, having a great laugh and all, it was all fun. Graham Lennon popped by and says, could you write a song for this scene in the IT crowd? I think it's where Matt pretends he loses his hand and all this stuff.
Yeah.
You know that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Graham has always liked him to get original music into montages and stuff. But he didn't want to get stock music. So he'd asked Neil and stuff. And then he says, we're also doing an episode where Moss invents a bra. You know, the bra, the brassiere.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a bit in that where he's running down the road, you know, trying to eat all stupid rocky stuff, isn't it? And so we wrote a song called Invented a Bra. And it was me singing like, you know, David Coverdale or something, you know, Aussie. Wah! And of course, Neil couldn't do that kind of thing. And so I was like, invented a bra and all this stuff. And it was really good. And Graham liked it, but in the end, he didn't use it.
Aww.
So the connection was strong then. And of course, I was hanging out a lot with Neil. And then one night we just sat in the pub drunk. And I says, you know, Duckworth Lewis Method is such a great name for a band if you think about it, because we're talking about cricket. He goes, it is a good name. And of course, Neil always has his little book. So Neil was writing down. So from that conversation, I didn't know this because I wasn't taking it in, but Neil was writing down all these bullet points. And the next day he rang and he says, I think I've got a few tunes and what do you? And I went, okay, that's interesting, yes. And he says, Duckworth Lewis Method, it's a great name and all and I say, oh yeah, it is a great name. It's very psychedelic English. And that's exactly what happened. So cut forward all the writing process and all the madness, which was great fun. It's just a great moment of both our lives because we're both hitting a pretty bad point at that time. We're in the studio recording Mason on the Boundary, and Neil is going, I have a monologue for the middle of this, but I don't want to say it. And I'm sitting there going, I would have just watched maybe an IT crowd a few nights previous or whatever, because you get home from the session, you go to comedy and you go to the kettle, you make tea and you have a sandwich and you watch comedy. And I just says, you must have Matt Berry's number in your phone. You know, you've met him. You must have met him because IT crowd and everything. And he goes, yes, I have. And of course, Neil is one of those people. Neil could have Barack Obama's number in his phone and he'd never,
like
he'd say, he'd just never ring or message or anything. And you know, you get these numbers because people want to give them these their numbers. So I sat in the studio and I remember it as clear as day because it was so stupid. He goes, I'm not going to ask Matt. I says, why the fuck wouldn't you just ring Matt and say, Matt, would you like to do a monologue? He'll do it into a phone. This is like 2007, maybe 2007, 2008. And I said, he'll just speak it into anything. We could just put it in. It doesn't even have to be good quality because, you know, it's a dreamy moment. It's just, you know, we can affect it and everything. Well, I'm not going to ring him. I said, well, give me your phone. I'll fucking talk. And he gave me the phone and the phone rings and he's like, hello? And I'm like, hello, is that Matt? And he goes, yes. And I went, this is Thomas. I think we met vague, and we did. What happened was when the IT crowd was renewed for one of the seasons, I was in London and Graham had said, come out for a drink. And I went and met him in this lovely, mad East London pub. And Catherine Perkins, is that her name?
That's her name.
Jenkins?
Parkinson.
Yeah, this Perkins. She was there. Matt was there, Graham was there, Richard Ayoade wasn't there. Who else? What's the other person?
Chris O'Dowd?
Oh, yeah, no, Chris O'Dowd was in for like 5 minutes and then left. But we had this big booze up, and I kind of met Matt, and the thing was, Matt is really quiet because you won't believe it, he is a shy, reserved person. But he was just in the outskirts, and he was laughing along, and then we started talking about music, and he got really interested because music is his first love. That's just it's the way it is, you know. It just so happens he's funny as well. The fucking show off, you know.
Overachiever.
So
and he could paint.
Yeah,
what the hell?
And he paints.
Multi-talented prick, but. So I said, I met you quickly. Then I said, yes, I remember. Yeah, I said, well, it's great to talk to you. He said, I'm sorry for disturbing you, but we're in the studio here making this record about cricket with Neil, and Neil has your number, and he did want to talk to you. And he go, hello, Matt, in the background, all that. And he says, yeah, well, what you want? I says, well, can we just email you like 5 lines or 6 lines of silly stuff? You don't have to really know what's being said and stuff. So, of course, Matt hasn't got a fucking clue about cricket, but the words in Mason are fine. They're just English words. And he said it, but of course, the minute he did it, then Neil was like, no, can you do it again and do it like this? And so Neil started getting producer heading. So he did. That day he had it nailed. And Jesus, I think in my old archive I've got a couple of outtakes where he would have just sent early ones where he's doing the voice. He's going over the top.
Yeah.
And then he went down to like where we needed him to go down to, and the rest is history with that.
Drinking in the history, in the shade of a willow tree, out of the boundary. There's no surprise, Mason resides on the boundary.
With milky light dappling his claret-ruddied cheeks, Mason sleeps. His dreams are peopled with legends. Good morning, Mr. Compton. Well played, Mr. Bradman. A present lethargy intercedes with a checkered past in his double-moted subconscious. He wakes. The scent of tweed and gingham fill his colonial senses. It looks like rain.
I had no
Amazing.
idea that's how
Because when we
you
went to London
met
then
Matt.
to promote it, he turned up at Rough Trade and he was hanging out everywhere, and so he was getting up on the stage doing it, and that's how I got to know him.
That's amazing. It's such an
Yeah, I
amazing
think-
song too. I've since made my mom a big fan of Pugwash, and she's also loves Mason on the Boundary. She loves that song.
Cool.
So
That's great.
yeah, made another fan.
But when we were the writing process with me and Neil, when we were doing that song, we had this thing. Mason's gone to Zanzibar, underneath is Panama and all this
Yeah.
stuff. It's just great fun, right? All wordplay. And we had this fading in the evening sun, and we were sitting there going, lots of fun for everyone, eating a currant bun, all this stupid rhyming stuff. And this was when we kind of said to ourselves, like, maybe there's moments in this, maybe this record is a little special, because you don't ever think of things like that. But Neil says, because we had like cricket books around stuff, like for inspirational bits and pieces. And he says, open up the cricket book of fucking the wisdom book of cricket, and he says, I'll have a look, see if there's a word in there, whatever. And I said, right, I'll just open it, and I put my finger on a page and bang, and I swear to God my finger just went on Panglossian. And I says, you won't believe this thing, but there's a word here that does have a rhyme to kind of sun. I said, but it's fucked up, I don't know what it means. It's Panglossian. And he goes, oh my God. And he goes on to Google Panglossian, and Panglossian means like hopelessly, beautiful or whatever. It just means something special. Can somebody Google there and see what the fuck it actually means? Because I've never looked it up. Yeah, it's Panglossian, I think. I've never looked it up actually, which is fucking weird.
Marked by the view that all is for the best in this best of possible worlds, excessively optimistic. It has a
There you
picture of
go.
Trump by it, if you Google it.
But isn't that amazing? And so it was fading in the evening sun, hopelessly Panglossian. It was like, wow, that's fucking great. And so that's what kicked it on, really, things like that. Because we're only going to do 2 or 3 songs for like a little online bit of fun. But we got to 6 and we went, fuck it, we can do 6, we can do 10. So we got to 10. We said,
why not?
Yeah, we said we could do 12, we get to 10, because an over in cricket is 6 balls, and then you change ends and bowl 6 balls again. That's what an over is. So, of course, we said it has to be 6 songs each side of the album,
Oh,
So,
that's
yeah.
cool.
But yeah, and just to jump forward to the second album, because Matt is on that again. I'm talking about Matt not knowing anything about cricket. He had to read out this like kind of sports card of stuff in the song Mystery Man. So he goes, Walsh, bold, whatever. That's the way he read out cricket scores, Walsh, 57 not out, caught and whatever. So we had to read. So we gave him names of like famous Indian players, and basketball players, say like Kobe Bryant and all this stuff, all these incredible names of people. But of course, he hadn't got a clue what they were. So he had to say people like Muralitharan, which is a very difficult name to say anyway. And he goes, Murder Little. And he just couldn't say the name. So if you listen to that track and you hear him when it comes up to the Murder Little name, it's the hardest thing he ever did, I think.
Here are the scores at the end of the second day's play. TWP Walsh, 62. Corkbold Embury. Ian A. Hannon, 63. Leg before Wicket Bold Ambrose. APC Flood, 4. Retired Hurt. TJ Weller, 3. Court Panasar, Bold Small. NM Seymour, 150. Cork Gilchrist, Bold War. SL Little, 14. Run Out Flintoff, Bold Willie. JNG Fitzgerald, 36. Stumped Russell, Bold Merilithium. CJ Davey, 244, not out. AJ Skeet, 99. Leg before Wicket, Bold McGrath. WDB Cooper, 50. Court Anderson, Bold Swan. GM Massey, 0. Trod on Wicket.
He couldn't say Sarasota either when he. I listened to Eddie Pillar's show on Thursdays on Totally Wired Radio, and he does those shout outs, and he did a shout out for American listeners, and he couldn't say Sarasota, which I thought was pretty funny.
Well, did you hear the one where he farted on Eddie Pillar's show?
Like every time he's on, he farts
Every
on
time.
Eddie Pillar's show.
Yeah,
He did it this
yeah.
past Thursday. Yeah.
Oh, he farted recently?
Yeah, on Thursday.
It's
It
his
was
thing.
very loud.
Well, WhatsApp groups now are getting exposed and stuff. People, stuff is coming out now. All it'll be is about 400 fucking audio messages of farting from Matt to me.
This does not surprise me.
That's his
Some
scandal.
Not at all.
are genuinely stunning. But, I wake up, he's up from early, and I wake up at 11 o'clock in the morning, and I go, there's a message, click on it. Like, oh, fuck's sake.
Yeah, Courtney and I were wondering if that's something, because we know he can belch on key, because we saw him on, I think it was
Monkey trousers.
Monkey Trousers, right?
Mhm.
And we know he can belch on cue, but we didn't know if maybe he could fart on cue too, which is really
Well, I'm
quite
not
the
sure he can
talent.
fart on cue, but he certainly has some good
Good work.
Ones stored up.
bells.
He's like, oh wait,
Uh,
gotta get prepared.
Gotta get my phone out.
We met Matt one time down in London just to hang out because we had great fun. It was a great laugh, and of course we're all being music fanatics. It was just all Beatles talk and all gear talk and all. It was very man shit, but it was great fun. He comes in one day into this pub. I was doing I think the band had just done an absolute radio session or something. So it was around the centre of London there, and he comes into the pub and he goes, "Oh, how are you guys now? Hugs and all, blah, blah. Do you mind if my girlfriend pops in?" And we went, "Oh, fucking no, Irish people." If Matt said I had to go, can my girlfriend come in my place, we'd be more happy. Because, once there's a woman around the table, we can have real fun.
Yeah.
And so we said, "Of course you can." "What the fuck you asking?" "Of course, yeah." And all that. He goes, "Oh, here she is." And it was Belinda Stewart Wilson who walked in. And we all went, she's stunning anyway. But the thing is,
Yeah.
like, he didn't think Matt really thinks nobody knows anything. That's a trait of Matt that I can't get my head around. I've known for 15 years. He still says things like, who's the Pope? You know what I mean? He genuinely, I honestly think now it is just him. He really doesn't do any celebrity thing. He doesn't do anything like that. But I knew Belinda from the Peter Serafinowicz show, from so many bits of comedy, and obviously the In-Betweeners and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, and of course, every man, with Belinda, she's Belinda, it's just,
She's
it's men.
gorgeous.
Look, we get excited by a fucking stump in the ground, for fuck's sake. That's just men, but when they come a bit more glamorous, we all fall for it. We all do. But she walked in and I went, "That's fucking, oh, hello." And she instantly just hooked onto me. And I was just like, "Oh, thank you, man. Thank you for bringing her into our life." But she was so brilliant. And she is brilliant. She's an amazing person, brilliant actress. But I swear, a party animal doesn't even, she's just incredible. She parties harder than anybody I've ever known. Now, I haven't partied with her in a long time. Like, we still speak now and again, but at that time it was like, "Fuck off, Belinda, will you fuck off?" It was like that. Like, we want to go to bed.
That's so funny. I wouldn't have expected that.
Oh, that's the great thing about it. Matt is so reserved, so quiet, and you wouldn't think if you see him. Belinda, you think, and she's a loony, but a brilliant loony, like a really great person, and I love her. But we hung out so much then that Matt said to me one day, "Would you think of it's our 40th coming up? Would you think of writing a song or something, or could you do a little thing?" And I was at home in the bedsit I used to live in Dublin, and one night, and I swear I was still drunk the night before, because I stopped drinking in 2010 and doing everything, and so, but this was still just pre 2010. But I was sitting there going, and I picked the guitar up, and this whole song came out, and then the lyrics were all, I said they could be all her shows, her TV shows. So all the lyrics are like, so it's a song called Dear Belinda. It's on the Olympus
Beautiful
Sound
song.
album. Thank you.
Where will you go? What will you do from here, dear Belinda? 'Cause you've done it all, yet you are still so young, dear Belinda, dear Belinda. Nobody told you there'd be days like these when you were starting out. You shone like the moon, and then you said goodnight as a sweetheart, as a sweetheart. Where will you go?
Nobody told you. Yeah, nobody told you. She was in a show called Nobody Told You. Days Like These. She was in a
Okay.
show called Days Like These. When you were
got
starting
that.
out, she was in a show called Start Now. You shone like the moon. She was in Shine on Harvey Moon. Then you
Okay.
said Goodnight as a Sweetheart. She was in Goodnight Sweetheart.
I love
Interesting.
that. I
Oh.
never caught those Easter eggs before.
Yeah, I didn't either. 'Cause
No.
I don't know a whole lot about her. I've seen her recently. I watched the In-Betweeners, but I didn't know her at the time. I saw her in the IT crowd a couple episodes. But yeah,
And
I would
recently
never have
on-
known that. That's really cool.
Recently on Toast of Tinseltown, which
Yeah,
she was
Toast.
brilliant in.
Yeah.
And they have history and all that, but they're great friends. But
Yeah.
it's like when they collide, you'll feel the fucking tremor. They have this wonderful. It's not a love-hate relationship at all. It's just they can just go, I'm in town or whatever, and then 4 days later they're waking up on the Thames somewhere. It's that kind of great, but it's all lovely and friendly and brilliant, and there's nothing harmful in any way. They're living life, But yeah, so I wrote that first verse, then I went, okay, the second verse, this could be tough. But
That's
I did
fair.
a little demo. Yeah, I did a little demo and I sent it, and she fucking got in touch. She was crying and she was fucking.
Aw,
Oh, that's so cool.
that's really
So the thing
cool.
was, I had to ask her then, because the reaction to it was amazing. I said to her, would you mind if I recorded it? I mean, I'll still dedicate it to you. Obviously, it's your song, but do you mind if I actually do it for the album? So she goes, "No, don't be silly. It'd be brilliant." So I did it on the Olympus Sound. I really liked the song because it was it happened really naturally. But I also meant the sentiment a lot, because she's so cool and so nice. And, we were all in love with her at some stage, all a Pugwash. But then they could have just split, and, they went about their ways. But we all kept in touch. And if I am in London and they're both available, it's easy to invite them both because they get on,
Yeah, that's
Of
good.
course, he walks in, he goes, she goes, then an hour later, you go, where's fucking Matt and Belinda?
Oh God.
And they're outside on top of a truck or something, doing a dance or something,
Oh my gosh. So funny.
I don't know how much I would pay to see footage of that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Great fun. We got great pictures now all the time because you just snap away. And I love it because it was the drinking days. It was, you didn't give a shit, and now you have to give a shit because you take more prescribed drugs than anything fucking else. So, you
Yeah.
can't do anything fun anymore. That's why I look forward to operations and stuff like that, because I get anesthetized. And there's some buzz off that. So, people say,
Yeah.
are you sure you're not worried about this operation? No, just bring it on. Fucking whack it in.
Let me out.
Yeah.
Gosh. So we know you're a big fan of the Beatles, and your upcoming
Mm.
album was partially recorded at Abbey Road Studios. Can you tell us what it was like recording there?
Yeah, it's always special, and it's not like you don't sit down and making an album and go, okay, I want Abbey Road with this one. Because that's not how you make records, and I hope people understand this about, well, I suppose serious musicians. I mean, I'm serious at this stage because it's everything that I do, and I'm 30 years doing it really, but it's whatever dictates, it's whatever is happening during an album will dictate where it will go. So I've been to Abbey Road many times to master because it's great, and there's great friends there, there's great people, and they're great to work with, and it's not any way dearer or more expensive than anywhere else, and you can go to somewhere in Ireland and you'd pay the same money, and then
That's
I just say, well, look,
crazy.
at
Yeah.
you know, for the sake of a fucking, so you'd say, okay, there's going to be a flight and accommodation, and the accommodation can be a bit silly in London, but go for 2 nights and it's the same money. There's a flight is like 50 quid, you know, over to England. It's only at 50 minutes over the pond. So it's brilliant. And of course, the history is there. So it does inspire you. That's the other thing. There's an inspirational thing. There's a sound, and that's another thing people don't. Well, no, I'm not saying people don't understand, but it's not just to go there, like, because you see so many millionaires, a lot of them Americans, I have to say, and who go with their Rickenbacker guitars and stand there for 2 or 3 days playing Beatles songs, and they have the money, and Abbey Road will take the money. They don't give a shit because, you know, why not? And
Yeah.
but, you know, that's hideous to me. It's just a bit weird, you know. It's like, I don't know. It's like going to the Taj Mahal and doing a stupid Indian dance or something that doesn't, you know, it's like cultural appropriation, I suppose. But
Yeah.
it just doesn't. Things like that I don't go in for. But when I'm there and I'm working, I do like to get a lot of people in, because it's like, I think to myself, well, I think that friend of mine has never been in here, and they could come in and feel the atmosphere. It's like when Jeff Lynne got into to see the Beatles in 1968 doing the White Album, sat in on them doing Glass Onion and Why Don't We Do It on the Road and stuff. Just sat there, and this is the thing, when I got to meet Jeff later in life, and I spoke to him many times about that, what he remembers of that session and stuff, it's the snare drum sound he remembers. And what happened then is, people always slag Jeff Lynne about his drums. He's tried to recreate what he heard when he was 18 in the studio with the Beatles when they were recording. So if you have that in your head, you will try and emulate it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's a tall order. That's like
It's a tall order,
setting
but
yourself up for failures.
yes, but you know, he's done a good job trying to. But the thing is, what he has in his head is the Beatles snare drum in that studio in 1968, and people come online and go, "Oh, that fucking drum sound! I'm sick of it. I fucking hate it." Blah 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 blah. Well, they might hate it, but it's not gonna take away from the fact that, you know, he was in the Golden Temple
Yeah.
for an hour and got a bit of
Yeah.
knowledge. I will digress. That's the thing, ladies. I will digress into stupid stuff.
Oh no,
Oh,
we
we love
love
it.
tangents all the time. Like,
Yeah,
I
we're
don't
big on
even.
that.
We recorded another episode earlier this week, and I don't even know how many tangents we went on. Your tangents are probably more interesting.
And tangent is not a bad name for a band. You know, if
There you
you're a
go.
bit prog rocky, you know, a bit more in Matt's field, I suppose, you know. But yeah, Tangent, you could see him on a poster with Tangent written over his head.
That's so funny. So speaking of Matt, we know Matt is featured on the new album. What
Yes.
is his role? Can you tell us anything about that?
Well, it was going to be a lot more originally, because, of course, this record is, I mean, my last one's 2017, but of course I've had a lot of, you know, personal medical issues that I've had to deal with. But apart from that, anyway, obviously I was coming around to making a record around 2020. That's my normal 2 to 3 years is my normal time frame. And just because I have to work a record a lot harder when I release it, because it's not like I can release it and make a lot of money straight away and make another one within a year. It's like I have to just go to America and play in people's houses and play in alleyways and back gardens and, you know, and travel and do a lot of stuff I really don't want to be doing the later in my life, you know, because traveling takes it out of you. But I love doing it. I wouldn't have it any other way. I really love doing it. It's just pity my body says, you know, piss off. But I'd still get on a plane with my last breath to go anywhere, because that's what it's all about, you know. Coming up to 2019, I was starting to write a couple of things, and it was coming to me. But of course, we all know what happened very
Yeah,
shortly
spoiler
after that.
alert.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing was, people, I am the complete opposite to most talented people. There was no fucking way I was picking up a guitar during lockdown. I hated it. It was almost like, okay, if you do something like this now, you know, I don't need any more shit in my life to write songs, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's like I had double shit. And, you know, when you have double shit, you just want to lie down on the couch and watch television. But the online world was brilliant, you know, it saved me. And that's why I love doing the shows, you know, when I do them. It's just great fun. And
Yeah, it's so fun. I love your Facebook Lives.
I actually did want to circle back because we got sidetracked and we never did hear what Matt's role on the new album is going to be. And I think we're all dying to know.
Well, as I said, when I started off that answer, it was going to be more, because at one stage I was going to go and do the whole album in Matt's studio, and maybe just me and Matt and a few other people just coming along. But he's so busy, you know, it's ridiculous. I think the next year to 18 months, I probably won't even have Matt on my phone anymore. It'd be easier to talk to Bono. But you know, but it's only right. It's only fair and it's only right. You know, he's working really hard. And the talent is there, of course. So it's brilliant. But obviously then it was lockdown as well, of course. So in fairness, with music, he will clear the decks. You know, he will clear unless something incredible comes in. But you know, he'll make the time because music is, as I said, is his first love, and he loves my stuff, which is great. But that's the thing. Lockdown happened, and you know, he still worked a lot through lockdown in a way anyway. So because that's when the voiceover stuff became huge. I mean, I was saying to him one day, I was watching an ad for fucking jellies, you know, like Haribo or something. He did an ad. He did a Haribo ad or something.
It was Natural Confection, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Natural
that one.
Confectionery.
And I was just on the couch and having a cup of tea, and the ads come on, and they go, Natural Confection. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Just a couple of nights ago, we did our episode on the Blue Elephant, and we know that was recorded almost completely during lockdown, I believe.
Yeah.
And then he worked
Well, his
on...
studio...
And he wrote Toast of Tinseltown, so he had a productive lockdown.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's why I was kind of say to you, I'm the opposite to a lot of creative people like Neil and Matt, because Matt's just always creative, always thinking. I can only write when it takes me. So I mightn't want to pick a guitar up for like 6 months at least. And that's why I love doing the online shows, because it makes me play.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do not sit around and play the guitar. There's no fucking way I do that. It's like the worst thing I could think of.
Yeah.
So it's just not what I do. So my thing is, this wave comes over me like vomiting, and I'd write an entire album or 25 songs in like 2 weeks. That's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I did that for this album. I mean, I wrote this album in 2019, and of course it's a year and a half now since we finished recording. But anyway, Matt, so he says, okay, that's not going to happen. I says, well, look, I've started recording it in a beautiful place here, not far from me, and up in the mountains in Dublin. And I said, I'd love you to do some bits. So it ended up that we just did this 2-3 weeks full on session, and Matt was away and he was filming, and I couldn't even contact. But when he came back, it was pretty much done. But an album's never done till you know, the last button is pressed on whatever, you know, the mastering or whatever. So I said, there is a couple of things still on this one ridiculous track called This Is My Fortress, which is I wrote this one song, and it was like, right, so there's a couple of songs that are kind of locked downy on the album, but this one is like, we're all back in the Iron Age, surrounded by walls and warriors. It's all about a tribal song about, we might as well be back in the Iron Age.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're all surrounded and we can't do anything, and it's like, you know, whatever. It's all pretty primitive. Our existence became very primitive. So this song came in very Andy Partridge, you know, very XTC, I'm a big fan of and stuff. So it's the lyrics are rats in the gorses, rats in the gorse. Gorse is like a bit of hedging or a bit of bush, you know. It's like a bit of bush. So there's all these wonderful English kind of lyrics. So I just thought, well, this is gonna be perfect for Matt to go, we're all back in the eye, you know. That's what it was. So he did do all the vocal bits with me, and then he says, I have an idea for a keyboard part, which was great, which he did in it, and then he did some other keyboard bits which were great in it. But the song ended up becoming this ridiculous, there's 10 drummers on it, and it's great fun though. It's like a big, you'll all be going, and so you can hear Matt, of course, obviously shout as well. But in Abbey Road we did all the big claps there and all the big, you know, with the big cavernous sound. So he's on the claps as well there. It's funny because is he on one other track? So he was going to do, I asked him to do something on another track, but again, his workload was ridiculous. So I had one more day in the studio with Neil. Neil came up to finish off some bits. And so he's on the one track. He's on This Is My Fortress. You can have a little, well, then there's an exclusive for you. Fuck it. The thing is, it sounds like nothing on the rest of the album, which I like the fact that you should premiere it like that.
Cool.
Oh, cool.
Thank you.
Because people might go, oh, he's lost his mind. It's going to be shit.
We're all back in the Iron Age, surrounded by walls and warriors. Wattle and daub in a fireplace with a quarter of meat at the daily chores. Rats in the gorses, this is my fortress. Worship the horses. a goat and a pig and a flock of sheep. Let's offer up to the spirit god some wood in the shape of a sword to keep. Rats in the door says, this is my fortress. Worship the horse.
No, but it's great. But
No.
it's just it's very fucked up.
You've released a couple of the other tracks so far, at least one.
Yeah.
And yeah, they've been really, I'm so excited for the new album.
I just wanted to see if we could ask a few more questions about your collaborations with Matt. But
No,
one
no,
thing-
go ahead, absolutely.
So you were the singing voice of Ray Purchase on Toast of London.
Oh, Jesus, yeah. Forgot about that.
What was that like?
Well, honestly, you wouldn't believe how un-rock and roll it all can be, because I was over with Tosh when he was living, because Tosh is now living in Scotland with his wife, and
great.
Tosh was living in his mother's up till 5-6 years ago. His mother's house on the north side of Dublin, and I was in a little bedsit. He was having more of a good life than I was, but we at that stage we all were out of our parents' homes, but Tosh was still there. So Tosh would do a lot of his recording upstairs in his bedroom with his gear and all. And so I was over there one night with Tosh and just working on stuff or whatever. And Matt got in touch and said, would you do some vocal for me on this particular piece of music? So he sent it while we were there, and I did it standing in Tosh's wardrobe.
Wow.
Because his mother's downstairs watching the television. And whenever Tosh even put on certain instruments, it would affect, or his mother would put on the washing machine, it would start buzzing upstairs.
Oh my God.
So he was going, we better do it quick and all. So I'm in the fucking in his wardrobe with a microphone because he deadened the sound. And I'm like, what does Ray Purchase sing again? And that you're the worst in the world or something, isn't it? You're the worst actor in the world. And so I'm doing that in his wardrobe, trying to make his mother not hear us. She's lovely, by the way. She loved all of it, but he didn't want to disturb her.
Yeah.
And you're the worst actress, or whatever.
I think you've got the
and that was
lyrics
it.
down. You remember them.
But that was it. And it was sent, and Tosh did a bit of a mix on it or whatever, and it was sent. And next of all, it's in the fucking episode. But that's happened to me. It happened to me. I mean, it happened to me before because this is a very different situation. But Graham Linehan, Graham was known anyway before all this madness online. He's known as being a bit of a, he can be a bit of a fucking, what's the word? Bit
A
of a
lot of
pain.
words, I think.
Bit of a pain when you were hanging out, because he was always so, you have to watch this on YouTube, you have to look at this, and especially, I don't mean you want to be the Irish thing, but especially with Irish people socialising, they really don't like to be on their phones or watching YouTube, or they just want to be talking shy and shouting or fucking listening to music or whatever. It's just, it's not about, oh, everyone stop what you're doing, getting drunk and having fun. Come over here and look at this fucking guy falling off a roof or something. It's like, but that was Graham. I was out one night and it was his 40th birthday, I think, and I was doing my usual chatting away. I says, we're having jokey stories and all, and Graham is standing up with a pint and I'm sitting down, there's people sitting around, and I says, I'll tell you, fucking hell, I'll tell you one of my favourite drunk stories that happened to me. Obviously so I'll tell you the story, right? So I was doing a gig in Dublin one night, and of course it was just a covers gig, so it was just a pub for 2 hours with people just talking, and me there going, Michelle, my bell, whatever. A good friend of mine, an old friend of mine, he used to drive me everywhere. He used to love going because he'd get pissed as well, even though he was the driver.
Oh, God.
Oh no.
Great.
It's all, look, the fact is we're all against all that stuff because it's natural to be, you don't want to be stupid and drive drunk and do all stupid things, but back in the day this happened. So anyway, we came out and we sat in his Mercedes car, an old Mercedes car, and of course put a CD on and let's have a smoke, like a joint, and let's have a drink. And there's a car park beside the pub, and so we were facing out onto the road. You could see everything, but of course across the road was these terraced houses of just normal people trying to go to sleep, and all they could hear was music going on. Of course, being pissed, you don't know. And someone called the police, called the guards, the Gardaí, and I could see right down the road, because it was this big long, it was near the Phoenix Park, very famous place in Dublin. And I seen lights of a car coming up the road, and then I seen the roofs sign and the guards, the police, and they drove past real slow, and I was looking at them going past like that, and they drove up to the pub, and I went, oh Jesus, Mark, if they turn in here, we're fucked, because we were the only car in the car park. And Mark had a lump of hash about that size on his dashboard.
Y'all can't see, but he's making a big,
like 2
he's
inches.
indicating a big.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, basically like a small brownie size of hash, the old hash, not grass, but hash, yeah, all that stuff. And I was pissed, and he was pissed, and fucking even so, you even sit in the car, you know the story now. We all know the cop shows, you know, even if you're in the car and you're drunk, you could be done, you know, you don't have to be moving. Anyway, the hash alone would have got us straight into the cells. So the car comes up and I said, oh, Jesus Christ, Mark, if that car comes in here, we're fucked. And he goes, oh, for fuck's sake, and bang, knocked off the music. Next of all, just an indicator, real slow, turns in, comes straight towards, and I'm sitting like this, I'm sitting like facing forward in the passenger seat. Of course, this is Irish driving, so Mark is the driver on the right-hand side. I'm sitting on the left. Put the full beams on the car to shine my face, and I'm like, so comes out and says, Mark, fuck this, because we're absolutely dead to rights. Once they get out of the car, so I grabbed Mark and said, Mark, just go with this. And I grabbed him and I tended to kiss him. Look, I grabbed his head and I was like, and he's gone, and he's the most heterosexual man that's ever been born. What the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? I said, just fucking shut up. And I looked at the corner of my eye, I looked out, and I just see the two guards, the two coppers just going, oh, fuck this. And they just drove around and drove back out and drove off. Now, considering I just got Mark off being arrested and being jailed and losing his job and everything else, he went, what the fuck was that? And I
You're welcome.
Mark, the cops are gone. And he went, oh, fuck yeah. Oh, Jesus, fucking brilliant. I said, it just came into my head, just because, you know, it's a strong trait of Irish and English coppers or whatever, even American ones. You know, the copper might be going by and see two guys snogging in a car, you go, oh, fuck this.
Yeah.
You know. It's changed a lot now. It's more normal, so they wouldn't give a shit, of course. But this was like this is 15 years ago, maybe more. So I told this story in front of Graham. He wrote the whole fucking thing down in his book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sitting at home 2 years later. Fucking IT Crowd on Channel 4. And I'm like, okay, the great episode. I love that episode.
Such a good episode.
And they fucking did it. I went, what the fuck? I got on my phone and says, Graham, I recognise that story because it was on live. I was watching it as it went out on its first airing.
Oh.
And Graham gets straight back and goes, oh, God, Tommy, was that you who told that story? I just wrote it in my book and there was no name. I normally put a name beside it and all that, blah, blah, blah.
That's so funny.
If you listen to if you do have the DVD extras, he mentions an Irish band because he says, I mentioned it on the DVD extras on the commentary, but he said, I didn't want to say her name in case you didn't want to be associated with it and all this shit.
I do. I'm going to have to go back and watch that now. I have the whole series on DVD. But yeah, if you don't know which episode of the IT Crowd, it's the one where Roy and Moss get involved with like the tough guys and are like trying to be
We Are
like,
Not
real
Men?
I don't remember what
Are
the
We
name
Not
of
Men?
We Are Not Men. It's like a play on the Devo, on
Men?
Devo, We Are Men, or whatever.
Are we not men? We
Yeah.
are Devos. Yeah.
So this whole scenario is acted out by Moss and Roy trying to evade the cops when the whole thing goes down.
I'm so
I was
proud
playing it
because-
along in my head.
Yeah,
As you
because it's one of my favorite. It's probably my favorite episode, and it's nothing to do with the fact that, you know, a good chunk of the storyline was something that happened to me. I'm very proud of that. Absolutely proud of it, and I tell as many people as I can when it's applicable. So I think it is applicable now because it's a great fucking episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did the voice of Ray, and then I sang on the song with the blow football.
I thought so.
That's right.
That's so. I was actually going to ask you about that because I actually wrote it down and then I put a question mark because I wanted to go back and watch that episode again. And I'm like, I swear this was. And I'm like, maybe it's not. Maybe it was a different episode and I'm misremembering it. Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not crazy. So please tell us about that.
Well, again, I'm trying to remember the song because I really like that bit of music he wrote.
Blow Me Away, right?
Yes, Blow Me Away. And again, I did it in Tosh's bedroom, and I did this. We did this really cool kind of layered vocal thing. Yeah, that was really cool. I like Blow Me Away. But that's just, there's nothing really extra to that. It's just, again, he says, could you do that bit of, and Neil, I think Neil sings a bit on Neil sings a bit as well on one of the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
He did the voice of the director.
The director.
Oh, yes, he did.
Flipjack.
I think
What was his name? Something Flipjack.
Oh,
and it's the same one.
Flipjack.
It's the same one as me singing Ray Porter,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were together.
Yeah. So
yeah, this song about how he's the worst actor in the world.
Yeah, but that's the two. I think that's the only two I did, but yeah, so that's the thing that can happen with. There's a lot of comedians want to be musicians, and a lot of musicians want to be comedians. So and sometimes they can inspire each other because I know Matt makes brilliant music, and but sometimes I can come out with some good comedy. But it's just natural. It's just stuff that happens,
Yeah.
It's like Matt laughed for about 2 months solid because I was in hospital during lockdown for a procedure, and there was an old man at the end of my ward who was just like, he'd hallucinate at night time, and Matt thought this was the funniest thing he'd ever fucking heard in his life, and he got me to record like audio of the man going, "Oh, David, is that you, David?" I was like, he just thought, "Is that you, David?" He literally couldn't. If you meet Matt and you say, "David, is that you, David?" He'll start laughing. I think it's a good
I'll have to make a note of that.
We'll have to keep that in mind. Yeah.
It's just, he literally, he couldn't speak for laughing. It was just the most stupidest things would make Matt laugh for about an hour. But so, there's a couple of good things we've come up with. I mean, I don't work at all. It's just fun. But like he sent me that clip of the Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh yeah.
And said, "Would you, put the sound on and stuff? Help me out with stuff because he does it himself as well. He does a lot of very good stuff. But if he's busy or something, and then I love doing it. But I get really into it, and then he gets into it, and then so fucking 6 hours later. Editing a tiny bit of fucking him saying whatever, fucking,
yeah.
But I put the spit on at the end just because I was pissed off doing 50 edits. So I did the spit noise.
Yeah. This is the tweet that Matt tweeted a couple of months ago where he was doing a really bad overdub of Jesus Christ Superstar. This tweet they worked on for 6 hours, which I think is absolutely hilarious.
I love that.
Yeah. I think that's so funny. So I wanted to ask you too, kind of while we're on the subject, the music video for What Do You Like? That's on the Silverlake album, and you guys look like you were having so much fun doing that, and you did like the whole Paul Simon, Chevy Chase switcheroo thing like they did in Paul Simon's Call Me Out music video, which is like one of my favorite music videos ever.
When the world spun round, I could hear you out there breaking my heart. Innocence so broken apart. Tell me why you needed me. When the rain came down, I could see you out there turning those heads. Innocence lay broken and dead. Tell me why you needed me. So what do you like anyway? So what do you like anyway? Tell me what do you like anyway? Tell me what do you like anyway?
Well-
Whose idea was that to do it?
Well, it was a GoPro. That's the one thing I remember. It was just one GoPro camera on a stand, and it was the wonderful brains of Andrew Campbell from Low Jinx Records. He said he could do it with a GoPro, and he said we could do it, but you have an idea, because I was coming to England, to Brighton, where they were based, and I was going to the labels' kind of offices to sign a load of Silverlakes, because obviously they're based in England and I live in Ireland, so you just got a cheap flight, went to Brighton for the day and signed a load of Silverlakes, and they put it in with the pledge items and stuff. So I said to Matt, I'm going to be in England for a day or two, and he says, well, why don't you shoot a video for? Because when he heard What Do You Like, he got in touch with me straight away and said, that's your best ever song, and that's
So good.
so he couldn't stop playing, which is lovely, and Matt has tried to sell that to Liam Gallagher 10 times already as a song to cover, and he still thinks he will cover it or he'll do something with it, which is, of course, that would change my life. But he's convinced that if that song was in, if it got to somebody, it would. So it's just great. He's a big fan of it. But so he says, look, I have a day free around that time you're here. So we just all drove up to wherever he is in England, Bedford or something. And we went to the house, and of course he has a wonderful back garden. And it's funny, I was only thinking of this the other day. We shot a lot of stuff in his sitting room around his old fire.
Oh.
Where we're sitting in chairs and we mimed the whole song. I mean, we never used any of that because it just didn't seem to work out. But
I'd love to see
ask
that.
Andrew if he has that footage, because that'd be great to do an alternate video now. I don't remember any of it. I mean, I remember the situation, but I didn't see any of that footage at all. I don't know how bad it is or how dark it is or whatever, but you can mess with all that shit now, you know.
Hey, that's a good idea for a Patreon exclusive.
Putting
Well,
that
it
as
is.
a
there.
Patreon exclusive.
It would be brilliant, and it's exactly what I do with it. But that's the thing. I have to just, and Andrew will send it on for you. I'll do that afterwards as well. When I'm mailing you the album and stuff, I'll get in touch with Andrew and say, does he have that footage at hand? Yeah. So Matt said, come down the house. We went out in the garden, and Andrew's idea was just to cut, you know, get to the trees and then just cut me going, and then Matt singing it, and just silly ideas. But if you watch the video closely, you'll see there's a clip of me looking out behind the tree. When the sun was out, so the sun is out in one particular square of the fucking camera I'm thinking that's a pretty exclusive bit of sun there, you know, because it's not lighting up the rest of the back garden. It's just in one corner. So when we shot certain clips, the sun was out and then the sun wasn't out. So it made a bit of difficulty with editing, but we had 2 hours to shoot it because it was wintry time, or it was like the sun was going down at 4 or 5 in the evening.
That was all done in 2 hours.
Oh yeah, 2 hours, probably not
So
even
funny.
that. And
That's impressive.
Yeah.
But the amount of Americans, it's always Americans, by the way, because when I released a song years ago called Apples, and I put an orange on the cover of the CD bingo, just why not? And I was in the label's head offices, and you know, we did all our own artwork. And Michael, the guy, said, "What idea do you have? Because we'll release this as a single." I said, "Well, do you have any oranges downstairs?" And he went down to his fridge and he had oranges. And I says, "Well, give us one." And I got the one with the nicest little arsehole bit, and I put it into his photocopier, and I just put the lid down as far as it would go. So when I photocopied it, it all became black around it, and just had the orange in the middle, and that's the cover. We put font on it, and there you go. It's photocopied orange. But the Americans would go, do you notice an orange on the front of your single? And I go, no, is there?
Humor is lost on a lot of us.
Our educational system isn't great.
Yeah, it's really.
It's funny though. I love it though.
You always run. I mostly divine. Yeah. No need to laugh, no need to worry, no need to cry or say that you're sorry to me.
Now, of course, it's not a well-known. It's people like the song, fans like that song, but it's not a well-known CD single. It's very hard to get. You might see a scan of it online, but that's what you must have done when they're interviewing me to say, "I saw a copy of your Apple single. It's an orange on the cover, isn't it?" I thought, yeah.
Were you aware that it's an orange? Not.
Yes, but anyway, with Matt's thing, we just went in there for. I actually did sign another batch of albums. I got a picture with his BAFTA as well that day.
Nice.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, was it that day or another day? Yeah, I think it was that day, yeah, a picture with the BAFTA.
I think that the video was so funny though, because it just looks like you're getting like increasingly more agitated as it goes on because you're only doing the chorus. Just like Paul Simon in the Call Me Out video, he's like just moving the instruments around and then he does the little bits and then Chevy Chase is like hamming it up. So I think that video is so funny and it's just perfect. It's really a great video.
Well, that's great. But what I was going to say about the American thing as well is that a lot of Americans think Matt is singing that part.
Yeah.
You know, they think he's singing when he sings on the camera. They think, does he sing that part? That day with Matt was great, and I remember I signed stuff at the table. Yeah, I remember that. So, but we were gonna go out maybe that night, but I had to go back, and I'd love to have stayed a bit longer because the studio's amazing. It's an incredible studio.
Yeah, we've seen pictures of it.
Photos.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it's just upstairs in the kind of loft, but it's the perfect spot for him. So he's gonna do, like as you said, Blue Elephant or whatever, and Toast during lockdown. Yeah, Matt can just sit there. It's a beautiful setup. I mean, if I had that set up, I would work more. It's just that I have to go in and push past all the records and all the coats and the fucking clothes and find a little machine and plug it in and put a mic. That's too much fucking work for me. So having a studio like that is a dream, really. I did some work on his albums, a couple of tracks. That's Solstice, wasn't it?
Solstice.
Oh, you were on Solstice? That's cool.
Yeah.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, I'm on Solstice.
What
Did we
is
talk
your
about that?
role on that? I don't think so.
Yeah.
What did
So
you do on
long since I
Solstice?
heard it. Jesus
It's
Christ.
a really amazing song.
Yeah, I'm definitely on Solstice. Yeah, I can figure that out where I am. I haven't played it in a long time, but I remember working on it. But also, of course, the video for fucking Solo.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes, that video is crazy. Everybody is in that video.
Do you have any stories about working on that?
Yeah.
Well, that's what that's what I've never really spoken about. Not because for whatever reasons, but it was still in the drinking days, and I was in London doing promo for Duckworth Lewis, and Matt said, "When is Tosh coming over?" Because Matt loves Tosh. You know, everyone loves Tosh, but you know, Tosh makes him laugh easier than most people. He says, "I want you and Tosh to. Would you do a video?" We're in this kind of All Grey Whistle Test skit video. It was in the what's the fucking name of the guitar makers? Like the Fender. I think it was the Fender place in London. There's a Fender offices, and they have like lots of different floors, and they've got like open spaces, and there's lots of guitars around. So, but to meet there, I didn't know anything more about it. I walked in, and then John Sims walked in, and it was Cecilia Paz from the Maypoles.
And Benedict Wong.
Benedict Wong is in it, which I didn't even notice that he was in it until like the 10th time I watched it.
And I did know, see, I was a big fan of Benny's from Look Around You, because he plays the doctor who brings in Medibot. You know, if you don't look around you at all. By the way, if you haven't watched Look Around You, you've got to watch Look Around You.
It's a show that reminds me of college. I used to watch it. Adult Swim, which is a network here, used to have the brick block in the middle of the night, and I used to come home, usually stumbling drunk, and watch the brick block, and that was on at like 4 a.m. So that's my recollections of Look Around You.
And that's what it's all based on. It's all based on Tomorrow's World, which is a BBC program, and all the schools and colleges, it was called. And it's such a brilliant skit, but it's hilariously funny. He was so nice. He's such a great guy, and he's done loads of great things since. I don't really know. I don't watch a lot of those shows, like I don't know, Thor or Game of Thrones. I don't watch them. But is he in all them?
He's in the Marvel universe. He was with Doctor Strange. He plays Wong.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that was actually, I didn't know him at all until then. And then
he's the necromancer in What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. That was a great episode,
he's in Shadows, but
just one episode, He was in the episode with Haley Joel Osment.
Mm-hmm. Well, he brings him back to life as a zombie.
I love that episode.
In that video, the solo video, he had a bloody nose. Is there any sort of story about that?
Well, no, that's the whole thing about, I think yourselves would get that. I mean, it's like the most stupidest, innocuous thing makes Matt happy. And there will be no reasoning for it. So if he's just coming to the shoot that day and went, "Oh fuck, Benny should have a bloody nose," that's it.
So I was thinking it was like, because that video is so retro, like from, I don't know, the early 70s, maybe it's supposed to look like. I didn't know if it was like a reference to him maybe snorting a bunch of coke bore he went on, and then his nose was bleeding.
Well,
or what?
You look at John Sim, and he's doing all the cokey bits. So if you look at it again, John Sim is and so that was his shtick. John was doing it, but Benny's was just completely unless Matt could tell me otherwise and say there was a reasoning. But what I remember is that it just didn't have to make any sense, and he'd love the fact that it would cut to him not having a bloody nose and then having one, and all that kind of stuff. And so the continuity. Yeah, the continuity didn't make sense. When that stuff was originally made, anyway, the continuity was always wrong. So that was the whole buzz of it.
It seemed really authentic, and it's a really cool video. I don't think it gets enough credit. That's like, oh yeah, there's a solo video. It's a really great video.
Well, I don't think it gets enough credit. Yeah, I think it's because it's a version of the song that's not quite as strong as it could have been, even though I love it. To me, it's probably like if the song had a stronger impact, maybe the video would, but it's still obviously loved and watched and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing that I was pissed off about was because he wanted me and Tosh to be the central focus, because, you know, it was typical. I mean, there is clips of the Old Grey Whistle Test where, you know, say the Beach Boys run the Old Grey Whistle Test in 1972. It's a great example of it. And it was such a tiny space. He did it like in a cupboard in the BBC, because it was a very small program, but there was no budget or anything, and it was on late at night. But of course, it became this cult thing because all these famous people, musicians, came on it. But the camera could only be two big cameras, and they could only get certain shots. So there's always close-ups. So they'd wait until the very end of the song to kind of pan away and get a universal shot. So like the Beach Boys are playing, and you go, I didn't know there was only 2 members of the Beach Boys in 1972. And it pans back, and there's 11 fucking players in the background.
Yeah.
So he wanted to deliberately not have him on the. Now I know as a fan of Matt Berry here, like yourselves, that must really piss you off, and that's what would make him laugh.
I think it's funny. I think it's because you only see him for like a split second, and then at the very end you see him walk out. Like it just looks like everybody's
pissed off.
Yeah, it just looks like everybody's pissed off during the whole thing. Like they just had a big fight before they went on, and then they had to do the show. And
not having fun.
Sorry, yes. So the general premise was that we were splitting up after that performance, and
that adds a lot of context.
Yeah.
I was just to be pissed off, and everyone else was just to be either doing drugs or fucking there was a bloody nose or whatever, you know. So it was there was all. Yeah, it does make more sense now when I think about it, but we were to be breaking up, and I was probably the main guy who was pissed off, and I was thinking to myself, I don't act, and I can't act. And then Tim was great, because Tim was kind of filming it in the dark. You couldn't really see him, so he got a lot of shots of me, and I'm just kind of going, you know, because but I didn't want to do too much of it. But Matt was saying, you know, just be pissed off, and I was like,
I could do that.
That's so
so
funny.
I was just thinking, I thought I acted too much, and then I was seeing the cut of it, and I went, oh Jesus, Matt. And this is another thing about Matt, you know, he'd be delighted then that people would be pissed off at me or Tosh, because it's all us in the video. And so the comments would be going, why is Matt not in the fucking video? Who's that fat guy playing the fucking guitar? Why is he in the video? And I'm like, oh, fuck off, Matt. You know,
I think it's brilliant because it really does. It's so perfect too. It feels so authentic. We didn't have Old Grey Whistle Tests, but I remember seeing old videos like that on TV, and I was like, why are they only panned in on certain people? It's just super weird. But I can't even explain how happy that makes me, because we talked about the solo video, and it makes me so happy that what we speculated about what was actually going on in the video is actually true. So I'm like really happy about that. So go back and listen to our odds and ends video if you've not listened to it before.
Yeah, well, you spotted it. That's the good thing, and that's what I mean. Fans will spot those things. Like I'm a big fan of certain musicians and all, and I can hear the nuances, or you know, I can pick up on the things. And then when I see someone online nowadays going, "What does that mean?" or you know, and you kind of get annoyed. Oh, of course it fucking means that, whatever. Someone put up on a move. So I'm a big fan of the move, you know, like the 60s band before ELO and all that stuff. But people, it's amazing. People come online now and go, I didn't know, you know, it's like saying I didn't know the Pope lived in the Vatican. When people say certain things, I didn't know they had a song called, you know, Blackberry Way so their biggest ever hit, the biggest hit they're known for, say, someone comes on and goes, they sing that, and you go, oh, Jesus Christ. So I suppose it's just the fact that, like, I'm a generation where the knowledge had to be earned, because you have to go out and buy magazines, or you have to go and see a show where you have to listen to, and nowadays of course it's all just there, so a lot of stuff could get smoothed over, you know. So I'm a bit worried about the stupidity element of online life. You know, there's a lot of idiots out there.
Oh yeah,
you know,
for sure.
So it's good to talk to people who know what they're talking about and get stuff. You know, it's fucking, and you're up to the younger generation, of course. Yes,
we get stuff. You toured with the Maypoles. Do you have any interesting touring stories about that?
A decade ago.
Well, I took some great pictures of Matt during that tour, actually. I always remember that. Now we just a lot of great fun, because I met Bob Mortimer on that tour, which was a big thrill for me.
Oh, nice.
But Bob turned up at like a gig in Bristol, I think, maybe Weston-super-Mare, something like that, or one of those places. And he just turned up, and of course Matt typically, you know, because I looked out at the crowd when I was doing the support slot with the lads, and I thought I saw Bob Mortimer, and I got on stage and said to Matt, "Is Bob Mortimer in the crowd?" He goes, "Oh yeah." The fuck did you tell me? So I just went out to find him. Oh God, he's a legend as well. So in Vic Reeves. And of course they love Matt. They love Matt. So loads of stories. Just thinking about it. I was in London. I think mastering maybe the Play This Intimately album, something like that. And Matt said, we're doing the last bit of filming on, what's it called again, the show with Vic and Bob?
House of Fools.
House of Fools. We're doing the last night of shooting for the last series, and we're doing it in Wood Lane, which is a very famous, the BBC headquarters. So if you see shots of the BBC, the 70s Monty Python ones and all, they're going into the BBC, it's that famous building. John Lennon going in with Yoko to be interviewed in Wood Lane, I think it is. And of course, they moved all their stuff to Salford in Manchester, BBC, so it's all based in Manchester now. They get out of London, but that building is still there. They still shoot iconic stuff there that's used. But as an actual BBC filming place, if the last thing that was ever done that I heard was House of Fools. So it was shot on the old soundstage and all that. So Matt says, do you want to come over to the last night of filming? And honestly, this is the truth. I travelled all day. Sometimes we travel from Ireland to England. It is 25 minutes on a plane, but sometimes it's 8 hours long.
Oh my God.
And this is exactly what happened to me that day. I just arrived at the hotel and Matt messaged me and says, we're doing the last night shooting and I wanted to go to that. I had been to that building, but I would have loved to have gone for the last night. And of course, Vic and Bob, and it's just perfect. But I was in this really nice hotel in London and BBC 4 came on and went, and now we have an evening of ABBA. And I went, yay. And I was on the bed and ABBA was on. I was like, fuck this, I'm not going anywhere. And fast forward, about a year later, I was back in London and Matt says, do you want to come to a party? Now, I'm not a party kind of guy, and especially when I stopped drinking, it's just, it's alien people, when everyone's soft, their tits and probably doing everything. But Matt says, I'm out drinking with Josh Home. Do you want to join us? And I was on the bed in the hotel with, I bought one of those 20-pound tuna sandwiches because I had it was a free room. I was doing a TV thing, so I could buy what I wanted on the room service. And I seen a tuna sandwich, which is all I wanted. Tuna sandwich, lovely, and a Coke and whatever. And of course, it was 20 quid for a tuna sandwich. It just arrived, and he texted. I went, I'm out with that. I went, So I've terribly torn back down on a couple of amazing occasions, but shit happens. But Josh Home lost out. Josh Home lost out to the
for
tuna.
ABBA and a tuna sandwich.
Yeah, the tuna sandwich.
That's
Bob
super
lost
low
out
in
to
your
ABBA,
list of priorities.
But also the fact that it's like LA in a way. You can't just go across London.
Yeah.
Like if you're in Dublin and someone says, I'm in Dublin and I'm over at the airport, you go, well, I'll be there in 25 minutes. And that's the furthest from furthest to furthest.
Yeah.
But if you say that in London, I'm over the river, I'm across the river, or whatever, you could be fucking 2 hours going over there in a taxi.
Yeah.
Right.
So there was a bit of that as well, but I was like, But I think back, I think the Vic and Bob one I definitely regret.
Tara, you have a question.
I do. Okay, so we were talking about the Beach Boys, and we know you're a big fan of both Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys and Jeff Lynne from ELO and the Traveling Wilburys. So they're both fans of your work. I can't even imagine what that would feel like.
Yeah, well, I mean, it especially when I heard, I mean, obviously Brian Wilson is just supersonic legend, but for Jeff Lynne, for me, it was even more incredible, simply because he's so unsociable. He rarely did interviews, even when ELO were at their height, and even with the Traveling Wilburys, he had to wrench him out to do an interview, and it was only because George was doing them, he'd do them, and so to even get a message from him, which I did, a letter from him during the recording of the Olympus sound, that was just incredible, and it was a whole succession of weird coincidences that got my music to him, but it was just amazing to hear him say what he did, and especially because with me, everything Jeff Lynne did I loved, and I listened to it intently, and so in my music stuff comes out, and when he picks it out there and he goes, oh, I can see you're doing a bit there and you did a bit there, it's amazing, because they're just little and it's never intentional though. It's never intentional. It's just that certain things are going to come out from something you love so much. So that was amazing. And the Brian Wilson thing was just mad, because David Leaf, who's a good friend of mine, it was Brian's kind of manager at the time, and wrote some very famous books on the Bee Gees and James Brown, all these people, and he was a main part of the Bee Gees set up during the 80s anyway as well. He got in touch with me in 2005, 2006 by MySpace. Do you remember that?
Just bring it back.
And,
Yeah.
and it was through another friend of mine, Joe D'Ambrosio, who was a manager in New York, who just heard my music by accident, really, online and loved it. And so he knew David Leaf, and he said, you should hear this band from Ireland. They've got this song. It's nice to be nice. It's very Brian. And so, of course, David loved it and brought a few copies that Joe had given him along on the tour bus on one of the tours with Brian. And Brian loved it, and they started to play it a lot. And, so to get an email then saying we're coming to Dublin, which of course I was going to the gig anyway, but they said Brian would like to meet you. And it was like, yeah, that's
crazy.
I didn't believe it. And I remember, at the time I was coming in drunk, and it was 2:00 in the morning when I got the email, or I seen it, or 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And of course, none of my friends were awake, because it was 2 or 3 in the morning. But I started ringing all people I knew in America, drunk, just to tell them. And I just barely remember that, but it was too much really to take in, especially at the level I was at, and that part of my career. Nothing had really happened. I mean, it was all what you call it. It was all like kind of. I was loved by the press, but I wasn't selling much. Critical acclaim, as I was trying to find. So it was all set up, and I went to. He did a Q&A, which was even in 2006. That was one of the very last he ever did, I think. And I went to that, but I just, I didn't get to see him that night. I was supposed to see him that night. That's what it was. But he was ushered out, quickly right at the end of it. And David was there. I said, I'm sorry, look, it'll happen tomorrow at the gig. And I said, that's cool. I was just delighted to be there. But went to the show anyway, and of course the whole thing, I've said this a few times, but the people who run the venue in Dublin, very famous, lovely venue, the Vicar Street, they said, look, Tom, it's not going to happen. This is Brian Wilson, you're not going to get in. And I says, well, I have this fucking gold, silver, fucking platinum thing in my hand, which they didn't even know was something that they had to look out for. Because I got the special pass. But they were still like, we'll have to check and all. And I was like, whatever, it's just. So Jeffrey Foskett came over from the green room and just said, that's Tom. Yeah, Tom, come in. Brian's here. Wants to say hello. And I went down the back of the room, and Brian was just sitting at a table, and I walked up and was, hello, Brian, and it's an honor to meet you, blah, blah. And he just says, you're the nice to be nice guy. And I says, yes, I am the nice to be nice guy. And he goes, it's a great song. I said, thank you so much, Brian. What can I say? I was blown away. I couldn't believe it.
It's nice to be nice, as my mother once said. It's good to be good, and it's fun to be fun. It's nice to be nice, as no other would say. It's good to be good, and it's fun to be fun. It's nice to be nice. Ooh. It's nice to be nice. Ooh.
And we weren't supposed to take any pictures, but a mate of mine who was with me, he was lucky enough to get in. He had a throwaway camera. Do you remember those things?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Click,
Disposables.
click, 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 click. Leave it into the fucking developers. Come back later, get your pictures.
Yeah.
So he had one of those, and he took a couple of pictures, and of course the first one turned out great. I'm leaning over Brian, but he's got a lovely smile. But when he took the second one, he's gone. So it's mad. That's what I got off Brian. His incredible, this power that comes out of him. So it is spiritual. It's mad. When he's just looking at you and he's smiling, it's incredible. And then he just knocks off. It's like a switch. But so that was incredible. But then of course with Jeff, it was just so many things. And then it ended up that when I eventually got to America to tour and to play, some really close friends of Jeff were talking to me at the time because I got to know them, his old band in the 60s. And one of the main guys, Roger, said, you should go and see Jeff when you're in America. And I was like, fuck off. You can't just say that to me, Roger. No, just go to Jeff Lynne's house in America. What the fuck is it going? It's like going just knocking on Paul McCartney's house.
while you're at
Hello,
it.
Paul. Hello, are you up for a cup of tea? But of course, he'd known the music. He really liked the music, and Roger was speaking to him and said I was coming over. So Jeff said to Roger, "Well, tell him to come up to the house." Well, I didn't know this. Roger just kind of alluded to it. So when I was in America, I suddenly get this call, like an FBI call, of this person. Are you Thomas Walsh? Yes. You'll receive a call in 10 minutes about the. I was like, what the fuck? And it's just the number to get you on. And Kathy was with me, and she says, well, what about giving them my number, because it's an American phone, easier, because they're ringing my Irish phone with the fucking all the shit.
Yeah.
Right.
I said, yeah, I have a number for you here. They went, okay, you'll be calling that number in 10 minutes. And 10 minutes on the dot, then the phone rings. And hello, is that Tommy? I'm like, yeah. It's Jeff Lynne here. Oh, for fuck's sake. I mean, when I think about it still, it's ridiculous, you know. But it was just, what can I say? It was too much. And then he just says, yeah, well, you know, I'm around tomorrow. And if you want to come up to the house, cup of tea and whatever. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, what? And and you know what, and this is the story no one knows really, but on the way to Jeff's, because obviously I went with Katya, and I wanted to get him like so many presents and all, so we were stopping off everywhere in the way, Whole Foods and fucking off licenses and everything. And I got him like a cheese platter because he loves cheese, and I got him bottles of wine and champagne. Everything was ridiculous. And Katya was going, "You fucking have to stop," and all that. And I said, "Well, look at we hadn't got the cheesy thing yet, the cheese platter thing yet. She'd gone into a few places and they weren't very nice. So she ended up finding this place on the way. We're still in time, but she went into this place. And do you remember fucking More Than Words? That band.
Yeah.
What do you call it again?
Right? It's Extreme, isn't it?
Extreme,
Yeah,
yes.
you're right. Yeah.
The lead singer from Extreme was buying cheese. In the shop,
How did you know this?
Yeah, like
in the
I
shop,
would know it.
Katya went in. In the shop, Katya went in. Katya was in about 20 minutes, and I was ringing her phone and everything. I said, what the fuck is going on? She goes, the guy from Extreme is in front of me in the queue, and they're all getting photographs and pictures.
Oh.
And I was thinking, well, you know, it is LA, I suppose, but Extreme, yeah, it was a big song, a big band.
Yeah, but like,
not
recently. That was like one of my favorite songs from the 90s, but like, I would
it's a
not
great song.
know him if I fell over him.
No.
Well, that's the thing, though. He came out and he looks the exact same with a bit of wrinkles.
That's so funny.
So we ended up being like 10 minutes late after being 2 hours early.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. But I remember we got to the house, was way up in the hills, Hollywood Hills. And I just rang the bell thing, and I says, Jeff Lynne in. Is Jeff Lynne there? And he said something like, oh, top of the he said some Irish accent or something like that. Don't do it. But then the gates just open. And obviously you see from the house, you see Jeff Lynne walking towards you. It's fucking surreal.
Oh my gosh.
What a cool
I don't know how
moment.
I held me bladder. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would be like, I don't know. That's incredible.
But he's so funny and he's so cool, and we just got on really well. And I mean, there's great stories. I mean, I always tell the one about George that he saw a bit of Ivor Novello's, because you know I nearly won an Ivor Novello with Neil for Duckworth Lewis. Of course, Jeff has 3 of them in his little alcove between the sitting room and the kitchen, and I was just like, oh God, I nearly won one of those once. And Jeff was like, oh yeah, well, yeah, you did win one, did you? No, Jeff, I didn't win one. No. And,
I remember the story from, I think it was the podcast he did with Louise. He uses them as garden tools, right?
Yeah, and he just said, so I went over to George one day, and he's planting seeds of fucking Ivor Novello's in the garden. I was just like, that's brilliant. I mean, and so stories like that start. Then he brings me at the back, and he goes, walking around his garden, and he says, see that island out there? There's an island like kind of in the distance, out the coast. And he goes, he says, Joe Walsh rang me one day and says, you want to go out to the island out? So they hopped on a helicopter or a small plane, and they went out to this island. And
as one does.
As one does, right?
As one does.
I was like, no, Jeff, that doesn't really happen to me here. I normally just go and get some milk and some bread in the shop. But, you know, in fairness, if he had to walk to the shop for milk and bread, he'd do it every day. He's completely normal. But it was just great. I mean, he just went into the studio and he listened to my stuff, and he played me When I Was a Boy, which wasn't released yet, the song that he kind of came back with. You know, it's just a dream. But I went to the house like 4 times, and 2 or 3 of the shows, and I went as a special guest in New York in Radio City Music Hall, and that was an
Cool.
incredible night because we hung out with them for the whole night afterwards and all. But that was a brilliant night. That was a brilliant night. And one of the last great nights because he finished the tour then, and then there was the lockdown. I've lost a bit of contact with him. Last time I spoke to him, probably 18 months ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, and the last time I was there, he says, what do you think of that Ed Sheeran guy? And I says, oh, well, I'm not a fan of the songs. I mean, the songs don't do anything for me, but, I get it, And he goes, he was up here the other night because we did a song with him at the Grammy thing. He said, I've got to take my hat off to anyone who can stand on the stage in Wembley Stadium with one guitar and entertain 70,000 people.
That's true.
Because, Jeff, as I said, he's very, he's not nervous performing, but he doesn't like to perform, he doesn't like to be out front.
I wanted to ask, you were recently Disneyfied a few years ago, or a year or so ago, for an episode of The Ghost and Molly McGee on the Disney Channel, which featured It's Nice to Be Nice. So what was it like seeing yourself animated, and do you have anything else in the works with Disney?
Well, I've got some great friends in Disney, which is a real help for any kind of projects, but I was asked to do like a 15-minute bit of music for they were doing Cars. Cars? They did
Cars, yes.
Cars
Pixar.
Yeah, they were going to do one called Trains, and it was about a New York train full of graffiti meeting this lovely New York train that was clean, and the trains became lovers or something. And I went to the whole storyboarding of it in Disney in LA, and it was incredible. Talking about looking at something storyboarded and put up in front of you, and it's as entertaining as the movie would be, and it was beautifully done, and of course all Disney pictures have a 7-year cycle. That's what it is. They take 7 years from the inception or conception right up to the end if they get green lighted. So 3 or 4 years into a project, it can get pulled, and everyone starts again. So this was about 3 years into this. It was a good bit down the line, pardon the pun, and they'd had a few ideas for the music, and they wanted kind of more eclectic writers like say Mike Viola or people like that, Andy Stormer from Jellyfish, and they wanted those kind of poppy writers to do different sections of the movie, and they wanted me to do one section of it, and so I just came in for a meeting. But great meeting and all lovely people and great friends, but it didn't materialize. It was dropped. The idea was dropped. But from that, the guy who I dealt with mainly, Steve Lothar, his name is, he went on to do The Ghost of Molly McGee. And he just got in touch and said, look, can you get a version of Nice to Be Nice? And the thing is, if I do it, it's like Jeff Lynne redoing his old ELO songs. But if I redo It's Nice to Be Nice, I can get more of a cut out of it eventually. And of course, me being skint, it made a lot of sense. But I did want to re-record it anyway, just because I was reissuing Jollity and I wanted to have it as a kind of just a 2019 version or whatever. But I was unbelievably sick when the session came around to do it, and I was in the studio with Neil, and Neil Hannon played keyboard, piano on it, and I got the old guys back from the original band who played on the original, so it was a cool buzz and all. But I had a reaction to a pill, and my stomach was ripping out. It was really painful. So I did the vocals it's nice to be nice. And I swear to God, they are the worst vocals I ever did. And don't ask me how I just didn't use the original and put it on the new recording. I just don't even know why. My head was all over the place. But I sent it, and they still loved it anyway, and they used it. But I can't listen to it.
Oh, no.
And then, of course, they whacked the vocal up because they want you to hear the melody. They want you to hear the lyrics.
Yeah.
And the lyrics are simple and stuff. So that was the whole buzz. But then they decided to just draw me in as one of the people from the prison.
That's amazing.
And it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And I did another one on another episode that was sung by Mike Viola. So I did the episode, an Irish episode where they have a fight. It's like a Paddy's Day episode or something.
I don't know. I've never watched the show other than that one episode that you did, that you were in.
Yeah. And the song that's sung for like 30 seconds, it's a real Irish Pogues kind of song. I wrote that one, but Mike Viola, what's his name? Oh, it's Linus of Hollywood. Have you ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
No.
He's a songwriter, really, really talented guy. He's known as Linus of Hollywood. That's his nom de plume.
It's a great name.
So I've two songs in Ghost and Molly McGee, but the other one I don't sing.
That's
So,
really cool.
So yeah, it's great, and I mean, hopefully there'll be some future stuff as well.
That segues into my next question really well, actually. So, your songs have been featured in various movie soundtracks, such as the 2008 movie Pride and Glory, starring Edward Norton and Colin Farrell. So, I'm completely ignorant about any of this stuff, so I'm really interested to know, how does that come about? Like, do you get approached by the studio, or do you offer your songs up into a database of some kind? Like, how does it work?
Well, basically, with Pride and Glory, I was walking through a supermarket, a shopping mall, with my then girlfriend, and my mobile phone rang, and it was my manager at the time, and he says, "Oh, New Line Cinema have just got in touch and said they want to use fucking song on a movie." And I was going, "What? Jesus!" Ridiculous. I've spent most of my life just getting through life. So this was like Hollywood. So he says, I think we should ask for 30 grand, which it sounds like nothing, I suppose. But of course, this was 2006 or 7, maybe around that time. And because that movie took a long time to be made, and it was a lot of money put into that. It was a major flop. But it's not a bad movie. It's just one of those ones that should have been made for like, say 10 million and come out and gone to DVD and it would have done well on Netflix or whatever eventually or whatever. But they spent like 80 million quid in the thing or something ridiculous. We asked for that and they got back and went, "Oh, that's ridiculous. You're an unknown band." We just and what happened was, to answer your question, Nick Harcourt was the music supervisor for New Line Cinema at the time. Nick Harcourt, Morning Becomes Eclectic, which is his famous KCRW radio show.
Right.
And he'd heard my music. Yeah, he'd heard my music through various things. I didn't know this, but that's how I found out how it happened. It's an Irish cop, Boston-y, New York movie with Irish overtones, Irish American overtones. So they kind of wanted to get Irish bands and stuff. So he says, "Well, I know this band Pugwash, they're Irish, and they've got this song, 'Don't Let It Be Known That I Was Once Your Friend.'" That's the lyrics. And of course, there's a big fight in a pub near the end, and it's playing on the jukebox. And it's good. So the subliminal message would be, don't let it be known that we were ever friends, because they're going to beat the shit out of each other and all that stuff.
Don't let it be known that I was once your friend. Just let it be shown I know what was to win in the end. Don't let it be known to anyone who asks, to anyone who asks.
So that's how that worked. But they just got back and said, "No, you're not getting 30 grand, we'll give you 10 grand. And I went, "Well, fucking yeah, great. I'll take that." The deal I had with my manager at the time, because he used to put up all the money for the recordings and stuff, and he just take back any kind of earnings we make. It was a real handshake. We're friends. No one ripped each other off. We all just, but he made money, and I made records, let's put it that way. And I could get royalties eventually. I split the money down the middle with him. When we got the money eventually, which took ages, it was the lowest ever dollar to euro conversion rate.
Oh.
So got 8,000 euros and I gave him 4. So I got 4,000 euros out of it.
That sucks.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's still a cool story, and it's cool that your song was in it.
It's
But
really cool.
And great
That's
exposure.
It's just the way it is. It's just with the onslaught of downloading and streaming and all that stuff, what's really kicked music in the arse is the fact that people now are being brought up and being born into this generation thinking that music is free. So if you love a song and you love a band, or you love the whole ethics of an album or a single, to think that you get annoyed that you'd have to pay $2 for it or $1, or it's absolutely ridiculous.
I don't understand that mentality at all, and it's so infuriating. That's why, like, every Bandcamp Friday on our social media, we try to promote Bandcamp Friday, because it helps the artists more. I listen to Spotify all the time. I mean, I subscribe to Spotify Premium. I listen to it, but I also buy physical copies of stuff. And
our podcast in general has been we've tried with every episode from the start to promote physical media, to talk about vinyl releases, talk about vinyl history, encourage collecting.
Yeah.
Well, but the other end of it, which is sad though, is that the vinyl companies now know it's massive again. So,
Yeah.
the prices are ridiculous on a lot of stuff. But the great thing is, if you fall in love with the medium, the whole upsurge of vinyl is now as exciting and as explosive as it was in my day. The great thing is it'll make people love the medium.
Mm-hmm.
So then they just go looking for bargains and they go looking for things
Yeah.
online. They go into shops and stuff. So it's great for that. But the bad end of it is the companies now sticking out a reissue of an album that was out 10 years ago for 50 fucking quid.
Right. No,
You know,
that's crazy.
Sure.
And
You can buy
whenever
the
I
original
go,
for a
yeah.
fiver, you can buy the original for a fiver. No,
Yeah,
no fucking
and
difference.
I just did
Oh,
that
but
not long ago.
they'll colour the vinyl though. They'll
Right.
colour it.
Yeah. I think we're all
Yeah.
fans of colored vinyl.
Oh yeah,
Now,
I have
buy
like
them
every
all.
variation of color.
I buy them all for fuck's sake. I'm the worst, but
Yeah, that's like my favorite
I'm
thing
allowed
to
to buy them
do.
all.
Is go to the record stores, go through the bargain bins and stuff. But I always like to buy the originals if I can, like the vintage copies. I was looking for Frank Zappa's Hot Rats, and I was at a record store, and I was like, oh, they have a new one. Like, I will never buy the new one unless it's something that's like brand new that just came out. But I'm like, I was like looking, and I'm like, oh, they have a new one. Should I get it? And then I flipped two more, and I found an original one. I'm like, thank God. And it was so much
brilliant.
cheaper, and it was not in bad shape. So
No, that's the thing. But even if there's a bit of tattiness about it, there's a story in that in itself, really.
Yeah, it is.
But,
It's because they're so old. They're like, I mean, most of the records I have are like 50 years old. So yeah, it's.
But to finish, because Tara, you were still late, by the way, on the mute button because I heard the dogs.
Yeah, we tried really hard.
So you didn't get away with it there either. But no, to answer your question, that was how it was done nearly 20 years ago, I suppose, where it was a guy that heard me music and contacted someone to do with the label because there was an online presence. But nowadays it's through Sony because I'm public from 2010. Since Duckworth Lewis Method, I'm published by Sony ATV worldwide and out of London. So all the stuff that's come in since 2010 or 11 is all through Sony. So they do sell your music around. But of course, Sony have everybody on the planet, so they've Michael Jackson and then they've me. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. The Beatles and me. But but the great thing is to have friends on the inside, and I do have a great friend on the inside with Sony. And he's been like the kind of deep throat in All the President's Men. Like I've gone to him and I've been really bad and he's helped me out. So he's done what labels used to do in the old days when they give an artist an amount of money to write songs and help them out through tough times. That's the way they did it then, but they don't do that anymore because there's no money in it. There are very great companies, they're still great companies, they help the artists. So thumbs up to Sony.
Yeah. Well, I think we have one more question and then we can sort of wrap it up with anything else, any final thoughts. But you mentioned Louise Goffin, and I think just the fact that you know her, which is amazing because she's a major, she's a really successful singer-songwriter in her own right. But, being the daughter of Carole King is like, holy crap. Like I love Carole King so much. But when you talked to her on the Song Chronicles podcast, which was a really great interview, you went through each of your albums and you mentioned which track from each album, which was your favorite, because I thought that was really interesting. You don't usually hear the artist's take on it, but you mentioned Finer Things in Life from Almond, which was the first album, and you said that you wrote it when you were like 19 or 20, which I was like really surprised about. But then you also mentioned that you wanted to re-record it. Finer Things in Life is my favorite of your songs. I love it.
If I fell, would you stop to pick me up? If I'd cry, would you wipe away the tears? If I knew something I could never share, would you be there to help me anyway? Silly, but it's true, so stop me if I'm boring you. You take me up and you bring me down. I can't get enough of your love. I can't get enough of your love. You build me up and you break me down. I can't get enough of your love. I can't get enough of your love. The finer things in life is what you need. Silence
What would you do differently if you did re-record it?
Oh, well, there's a lot. I mean, if you only knew how that album was recorded, I mean, it was on that track. Even there's some acoustic guitars from a public toilet.
Oh God.
Because I demoed the tracks. A friend of mine who was integral with me, all my early Pugwash stuff, Keith Farrell. Keith was working in a place called The Funnel in Dublin, and famous for a lot of things because it held a very famous Elliott Smith show on one of Elliott's last tours, and Butch Vig used to go there with his band, his kind of side band, and do like sly gigs on the sly, and there's a lot of cool people went to this little place down the quays in Dublin near U2's place, and he had a run of the room. He was the house engineer. So he says, look, let's just demo the songs for your first album and just come down with an acoustic guitar. I'll set you up on the stage and I'll record you doing the demos. So we did that. And then when I sent the demos to the little label who were kind of funding it at the time, they gave me a little advance and I could book recording equipment to record it. We're going to do it at home and do it all this stuff. So we had to get ADAT machines, which are like videotapes, incredible, and break down every 5 minutes. It was unbelievable. But we ended up doing some recording back in the Funnel, and Keith says, look, we want to get not a spacey and acoustic sound. I said, yeah, I want to get a real dead sound. So I went into the cubicle in the fucking toilets and sat on the toilet and played the acoustic guitar with a microphone under the door.
Oh no, it worked. Whatever you did, it worked.
And
then,
resourcefulness.
I mean, I guess re-recording it so you're not in the stall of a public toilet would.
Yes.
I think it's perfect as is, but I could get that.
So there's elements of that song. Of course, I love the fact that it's a nice old tune. You know, I was very proud to write it when I was that young, because I wasn't really in love. I mean, I was definitely infatuated with a lot of different women around, but you know, when you eventually do fall in love, it's very different, obviously. So I wrote it from a perspective of someone who thought they were in love, which is going to kill, because there's a lot of merit to that anyway, you know. You know, the Beatles were writing love songs when they were 16, you know, and the Bee Gees and everything when they were 16 and 17, but they weren't in love, for fuck's sake. Well, like, To Love Somebody, Barry Gibb wrote when he was 17, for fuck's sake.
Yeah,
For fuck's sake. You know,
for sure.
Barry Gibb wasn't in love at 17.
You think you are, though,
Thought he was, yeah.
He was in love with his hand, like all of us men were, for fuck's sake.
That's
That's
so
what he
funny.
was in love with. So anyway, songs from that particular period, especially the first album, they were so primitive and so rough. As much as that's the way they are, and that's why people might love them. I'd love to get a nice string arrangement on that with real strings and a big drum sound and some really dead kind of warm acoustics. And my vocal could be a lot better because I mean, I only sang on the first album for the first time. I didn't even play live as an artist. I was one of these people sat in a shed doing demos like Andy Partridge, and so I was never out on stage singing my own songs. I did cover shows to make money, but so my voice is still very weak. And on that album, there's a track called Nearly the Same as Before, which is silly. So I always liked the melody, so I did it on the album. But it's anyway. But I drum on that track because I try and drum on one track on each album because I used to drum when I was a kid. So on that track, I was doing the drums in the Funnel on the stage, and a guy was let in to empty the cigarette machine of all its coins. And he didn't even know we were upstairs recording. So he comes up the stairs and I'm doing the drum take. And there's a bit in the song where you'll hear in the middle of it, it go dan, 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 like a waltz thing. And then it stops and then it comes back in. Down, down. So on the stop bit, your man empties the fucking cigarette machine. And it just got like the noise of coins into a metal box, by the way. Yeah. Incredible. So if you listen very, very closely, you'll hear the cigarette machine being emptied.
That's so funny.
I'll have
in
to
the
go
middle
back
of
for
that song.
Yeah.
It's alright.
So then, shh. Let's go to that. Then it comes back in. So all those, and this is what you remember though, because it's brilliant. Because then people do, like yourself, you're in America, in Florida, and you love that song, and it's like it's amazing. It just goes around the world, even in its primitive way. But so there's just elements of that song, and then people used to say to me, "Oh, Robbie Williams do a great version of that song." Robbie Williams was huge at the time, and I was going, "Yeah, he fucking would." But it's Liam Gallagher now with fucking Matt, you know. Matt saying Liam Gallagher do a great version of "What Do You Like."
Does
so
Matt actually know Liam Gallagher? Like, how does that?
Yeah. Well, he knows everyone. I mean, they all, of course, they all want to know him, you know. So I know he's a lot of. Well, he knows a lot of people, yeah. But I'm not sure. I think he has met because he's done stage stuff, hasn't he? I was talking to him recently about the Blur releasing an album.
Yeah.
And he was saying that Gorillaz were better just because he performed with Gorillaz. I think.
A few times now. He was in their concert film and then kind of
I
made a guest appearance.
Yeah. I just don't talk shit. Because I tell you, if I really like Gorillaz, and I went to see Gorillaz live, and it was incredible. One of the best gigs I've seen. It was brilliant. But if you're telling me that, you know, Damon Albarn's getting lowered into his grave and someone doesn't shout "Park Life," you know, that's what he's going to be remembered for.
I definitely like Blur better than the Gorillaz.
It's going to be Blur.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, for whatever. For me, anyway, whatever the Gorillaz might do, they'll never do like Tender or, you know, stuff like that. You know, I understand what he's saying. There's a huge kind of social impact of Gorillaz or whatever, but yeah.
I'm actually Team Gorillaz, but
what's that?
We don't have to get into that. I said I'm Team Gorillaz.
Yes, well, I'd definitely be into. I mean, I had a few great nights with Blur.
Oh,
I've got to say, back in the day. Back in right at the height with the Great Escape tour, I met Damon. I met the band twice on that tour because I was touring with an Irish singer who they really liked. So we were doing a similar towns, but they were doing like, you know, the big stadiums and we were playing in clubs. But we'd meet up afterwards a few times in it. And Graham Cox and I did the Wild Honey show, the Kinks Wild Honey show with Graham, and hung out a bit there. He's a really lovely guy, you know, amazing bloke, really. Quiet, so quiet, and you know. But on the Great Escape tour, he went teetotal on that tour. That's why we connected in a way, because I just wanted to chat, you know, to chat with Blur and all. Everyone else wanted to party; they were all doing all kinds of stuff. But he was teetotal on that, so I was just sitting talking to him. Now I was pissed, but I'd never looked pissed when I was pissed. So we got on really well. But then I read later then in books and all that on that tour, even though he was at the going off the drink, he was still going back to his hotel room after everything and drinking 2 bottles of wine before he fell asleep or something. He was addicted to wine. He was drinking bottles of wine by all accounts. So.
Yeah, that's such a great album, The Great Escape.
Yeah, that was a great Escape tour. Jesus Christ. And I remember it was like Benny Hill, because your man Alex James was chasing these amazing looking women around the foyer of a hotel we were in, and he was doing the whole pinching their arse, you know, running after them with a bottle of gin in his hands, and all he needed was the fucking yakety sax. And of course that was Blur. They do it in the Country House video and all, you know, they do the sped up running after the girls thing, and they did live the image, I've got to say. But
it's funny because I don't know how much of an impact Blur really has here. I had a boyfriend, an English boyfriend. I met him at summer camp, and I went to visit him in 1995 over Christmas. And I remember that was like the height of Oasis. It was Blur, Great Escape just came out, and it was like that feud. You were either like pro Oasis, pro Blur, but he was kind of in the middle, and he's the one that introduced me to Blur and the Great Escape, and I immediately brought it. I think that's one of the things that I brought home with me from England.
To me, Blur have had a bigger impact than Oasis simply because of Song 2.
Mm-hmm. That was the big crossover hit in the US.
Because that's at baseball games, isn't it, and basketball games,
everything.
You know, yeah, you don't get a lot of Oasis songs at basketball games and stuff like that, and that's the way I'd look at it. You know, everyone will go, yoo-hoo, you know, and
it's a huge thing at hockey games.
Yeah, a lot of them might know what it is. You just think it's that song that goes woo-hoo, but
woo-hoo
you know,
song.
Yeah,
that's the culture. They have made that impact with that song, and Oasis never could do that really. Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't get even Wonderwall. You wouldn't get played at such big occasions like the Super Bowl or something. You might hear a song too, though.
Yes.
Yep,
So I
definitely.
believe they definitely won. They always say they won the battle, but they didn't win the war because they got to number one with Country House, and of course, Roll With It was the song that was up against Country House in the Oasis versus Blur, and Roll With It is just shit. It's a shit song. I mean, it's
not
Roll With
great.
It. We all know it, but it's just shite. I mean, they'd released so many great singles up to that, and then Roll With It was just they almost bottled it. I mean, Noel Gallagher almost bottled it. He just didn't write a good song. And
Yeah.
Country House is a far better song,
Yeah.
And well, to me anyway. But so the English public will always they'll always know when it comes to that kind of thing. But yeah, they won the battle, and
Yeah.
but of course with the whole Oasis playing to 60 billion people in Nebworth every 2 weeks in England. But Blur, I've seen some amazing Blur outdoor gigs in Ireland, 50,000 people.
That's really cool.
Damon Albarn just diving into the fucking crowd like a lunatic. I mean, he'll never stop doing that. That's all I'll say. But Matt, obviously, and then of course Matt, this was a little slight thing Matt said to me the other night. He said we started talking about Gorillaz and Blur, and he said something like, do you think Damon Albarn, do you think he goes into a different mindset or whatever? We started talking about how he treats Blur and how he treats Gorillaz. And of course, I was giving my opinion, and a lot of times we don't agree on lots of things. And Matt goes, well, maybe I'll ask him myself. I said, oh yeah, well, fuck off and ask him then. Don't be bothering me. He'll give you the answer. So
That's so funny.
But he can do that now and again, just to annoy me.
Yeah. That's so funny.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being here to talk to us. It's been absolutely amazing. I'm a huge fan, and it was just such an honor to be able to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
And
thank you for asking me.
Yeah, and we are very excited about the new album, so we will be waiting for that. And as always, you can follow us on all social media at Obsessive Pure on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, I don't know.
Yes.
Instagram. Thank you so much.
Exciting.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tara. I love to Canada. Love to Texas, Courtney. And Jesse, Florida. It's shaped like a gun. What can you do?
It is what it is.
But I'd love to go
again.
because it looks beautiful. So I can't wait to go someday.
Yeah, do a show. We'll go. I'll go for
Yeah,
sure.
tour.
Hi, Thomas.
Bye, Thomas.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
My heart now beats for 3.